Do you remember that's from? Reticulating Splines.
I think that's a SimCity reference.
You got it. You got it. Yeah, old school. I think it was the SimCity 2000. I think it was.
What would have been my guess if you wanted a specific one? Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty damn cool. Why am we getting a pop up now on the dashboard that says YouTube is committed to promoting inclusion and fairness? We're using creator demographics to understand how different communities experience YouTube. Review your responses and ensure they are accurate.
What, is it like a survey?
I guess it says review my like. Well, how do I review it? It doesn't give me a click to review anything. Go to creator demographics. All right. By the way, we're live. I think. Yeah. It says we're live. It looks like we do have confirmation. Let me look at the control room.
Oh, snaps.
We did a thing.
Live thing. Oh my god, that was creepy as shit, man. I
what happened?
I only just saw weird. There was like overlap with the stream. I didn't mute it, but I just saw a quick like blink of the thumbnail, and that was creepy. Really?
Oh yeah. I just grabbed a random photo from. I think it was one of the old Stable Diffusion ones where it's like me in front of a microphone, but it like
got kind of like a bird nose looking stuff to it. It's fucking creepy, man.
So creepy. Hey, creepy thumbnails get the views though, right?
I mean,
how's everybody doing? Welcome to Tech Talk. Sorry we were not here last week. Mr. Auxiliary had to go and
play some video games with
some people. Yeah.
No,
that's I honestly cannot wait to be able to do that again. I hope that I get the opportunity again at some point with my health getting all figured out that I can go and do that, because honestly, live streaming from those events in gaming with a bunch of people is like some of the funnest things you can do.
Yeah, man, it's
like seriously, especially after the whole COVID thing, right? I mean, it's like not to say after as in it's gone, but now that we understand it enough and we have enough precautionary
kind of leveled out a little,
kind of rejoin the world a little bit. But yeah, no. Oh, by the way, at PDX, were people having to wear masks anywhere, or was it like pretty much free?
No. In spring, yes. Because I was there in March as well.
Yeah, I think that was a requirement.
This one, no. Then, right? It was heavily recommended. Everybody had to do their proof of vaccination and stuff, but beyond that.
No, I mean that's about all you can really expect at an event like that.
Yeah, and really, I was talking about some. I was there with Maple Syrup Mods. I was talking to him about it, and like, it's a little different at the LAN, because like you're pretty well spaced out. Like you're almost shoulder to shoulder, like in a line, but like you're not moving around a lot. You're not like bumping and like the difference. Like compare it to something like PAX, right, or TwitchCon,
where like shoulder to shoulder. Yeah,
there's
totally
international guests and things. Like I don't think really anybody outside the country comes to PDX LAN. Not that foreigners are whatever, not to don't interpret that in a negative way, but the variety of folk are less at an event like this. You're not like bumping and really close up on, man, you get right up in people's faces sometimes at a con like PAX or TwitchCon. Like you're like right on faces. Yeah, maybe Canadians. I know because Canadian
you get a lot of domestic travel too, right? From other states. Like a lot of people fly in to attend that thing. Because I want to say like Emerald City Comic Con is probably the one that's the most local, like as far as having mostly local people. But PAX, I know people flying from all over the United States, coming from like all kinds of places. Yeah. But the thing that's weird about it is it's like everybody comes into this one area, and then everywhere you go, you're passing new people.
Right.
Like at least in PDX LAN, it's like you're around a certain block of people. You pass the same people when you're going to the bathroom and stuff. It's like if you go to one of those conventions, you're just brushing shoulders with people the entire time you're there, and it's a new person every like 3 seconds.
Dude, yeah, you're probably bumping into more people than at that, like in one afternoon at PAX than you would in the rest of your entire year. Like different people. So like it makes sense that a big con or something like that would like enforce it, like you have to wear your mask.
Yeah.
And then like a smaller
I get sick, dude. Or I should say I used to. I haven't been sick in years, like actual sick, right? Yeah. Like where I have like the flu or something like that. I've had other health issues, but not that. But I do notice that like every time I've ever gone to a PAX or an Emerald City Comic Con, every time except for once, there was one time I didn't get a severe respiratory infection.
Yeah,
every single time. I just expected it. I actually planned it. I planned for it, like to come home and be down for like at least a week. And the one time it didn't happen, I was actually shocked. Right. Yeah. So it's like, so I know that you go there and that's just like petri dish.
Oh yeah, it really is. Yeah. They call it con crud or the PAX pox and things like that all the time. I've been to so many different cons and stuff. At least half a dozen, maybe 8. Because like I've been to TwitchCon like 3 or 4 times. I've been to PAX at least 4 times. So probably a dozen different cons and things over the years. Never come back from anything. And I go on work trips and stuff. I've been to Adobe Max and NAB and things like that, and never. Man, just wash your hands and don't touch your face, you grimy nerds.
and for me specifically, don't lick door handles or put 3D
yeah,
prints
man,
in your
you
mouth.
weirdo.
Dude,
Jeez.
So it's weird because I'm glad that I stopped going to the cons like when I did, because I would have definitely got COVID 100%.
Oh,
100%, because I watched like the footage from Bay Area Maker Faire when I did that. Now I think that was like the last major 3D printing convention I went to, like before I kind of shut things down before COVID. And I'll tell you what, man, I was like just putting like 3D prints off of tables and everybody's putting their grimy hands on and stuff on my mouth just to gross people out. Like I was just, I was like the opposite of a germaphobe. Like I could have just rolled around in like somebody else's filth. Didn't even bother me. Like it was funny to watch people cringe. But now after this whole thing happened, dude, I am like the biggest germaphobe ever now. Like I wash my hands, like I don't care what I do, man. It's like, you know, if I even look at my pee, I go wash my hands. You know what I mean? It's like I've become the opposite of what I used to be. And honestly, it has been paying dividends because like I said, this is the longest period of time in my entire life I've gone without having like a severe illness. The closest I've come to it is I got an ear infection. But it was just basically for me like sticking Q-tips in my ears or whatever. It irritated. And then I got some hot tub hot dog water in there or whatever. Yeah. And it created that weird, but other than that, over the entire time, no, never went in for pneumonia, never went in for bronchitis. And that was like a yearly event for me. I'd go in at least 2-3 times a year and have to be put on antibiotics for like severe pneumonia. And I got pneumonia every year for 10 years in a row, like without exception, 10 years on the dot, like every November, December, I got pneumonia. And so this is the longest I've gone without having pneumonia or bronchitis or anything like that. So I'm like, so it just goes to show. I mean, your environment is like solely responsible for whether you get sick or not.
Yeah.
It's like if you're on the International Space Station and you got vetted and quarantined and everything, like nobody up there is getting sick, right? You know, you don't ever hear them calling, "Hey guys, oh man, I got stuffed up nose here. I'm taking my Tylenol up here." You know, it does make me wonder though. Do you think they're up there like just like popping all the pills before they expire and shit, like turning the cameras off and like going to their little bunk and having themselves a little handful of Percocets because they're about to expire and the new batch is coming up?
Yeah.
like because that shit just gets vented to space, right? They just throw it in a capsule and let it burn up in the atmosphere. So it's not like they're going to be able to account for it's missing. It's like the day that you're putting all the medication into the thing and sending it down, be like, I'm going to keep a couple of them perks for myself. You know, go all, what is it? Watney from the Mars movie. What's it called? Mars. The dude that gets stranded on Mars. What the hell is that movie called? With Matt Damon.
Oh fuck! I can't.
How the hell do I not know that? My God, I'm old.
What's funny is I'm thinking of the other book called Artimis because of the topic today. But I don't remember. I don't remember, man.
So I saw that David. I replied to him. He said that he can't join because he's got to entertain the in-laws.
The Martian. Yeah.
The Martian. That was a great movie, by the way. If you have been living under a rock and haven't seen The Martian, I've seen it. I've seen it like a dozen times, and I couldn't remember the name.
Yeah, man, it's a great flick all around. The book is good too. I recommend the audiobook.
The science is solid too. Like
it's like he stretches it a little. It's good
a little bit,
but science, but it's still fiction. Like it's still
it's all based in something that would be like, I mean, the odds are nowhere near what they actually were in the movie, but like everything that he did in the movie more or less is something that could have been done, maybe not at that scale, but could have been done.
Like I find it hard to believe that one person, one human is creating enough waste in order to nutritize enough potatoes to keep them alive, right? Like that's a closed system that's not going to work, not long term. You might get one good crop, and that's about it. Like,
but here's the thing: what if that shit's going to get stuck somewhere? What if the soil was already like nitrogenated? Like when they first went there, they went ahead and like nitrogenated the soil, and then all he was having to do was just maintain it.
Yeah, like it depends. Like there's some, like I said, there's some stretching of a good core of science in the whole thing.
Like if that happened in real life, like the odds of survival there would be like damn near zero, right? They'd be closer to zero than they would be.
The 1%. First thing is wicked cold. Like there's like I feel like a lot of Mars movies misrepresent the atmosphere of Mars. Like it's really thin because I think the main problem, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure Chad will straighten me out on this, but I'm pretty sure the core of Mars is cold. Like there's like nothing there, or it's really, really weak. That's part of why the planets, poop.
So what is the surface temperature of Mars? Okay, so it flips between. Actually, not that bad. I mean, so a common value for temperature on Mars is -60. Oh, centigrade. Sorry,
that's what it is.
Okay, I thought that was Fahrenheit.
I think the core, they have no magnetosphere or whatever. There's no. I think Mars is like the core. Mars core is something.
Because I thought
weird.
it said just -63, but I looked and it's C. It's 210 Kelvin or -81 Fahrenheit. Actually, -81 Fahrenheit is survivable with the right equipment. I mean, we have places on Earth where it gets colder than that.
Yeah.
So that seems like that would be survivable.
Living there, survivable, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't be able to live there without like
the poop of all the other astronauts who left without. Oh, they had. Okay, I'm missing a little detail. So okay, that helps a little bit.
Oh yeah, his previous crew had already been there for a long time. They were on their way back because of some storm or something that was happening. They were going to like evacuate the planet. He ended up getting stranded, but they had already lived there for a period of time. So there was already a ton of his poops and shit from the other people that were in there.
Yeah,
but again, it's like, but the technology seems like sound. Like now, the rocket was a little weird. like the rocket was definitely like fantasy land,
old thing. Yeah,
but I did think it was cool that they used the rover that they were using was like similar to the one NASA actually built.
Right.
So the one that we were going to send to the moon.
Okay.
I don't know. Are we still doing that? Is Artemis going to eventually send that to the moon? Like we have a colony there, or are they going to have that cool little ROV thing they built?
I think the long-term plan of the whole Artemis project is a base, a permanent establishment on the moon. There's supposed to be like a gas station of a sort between Earth and the moon, or like it's like I think it's supposed to be. They have a whole timeline thing on their website.
Yeah, because they're supposed to be able to refuel on the way to Mars, right? Isn't that supposed to be the gas station on the way to Mars? Like we launch stuff into orbit, and then we send it to the moon, then it refuels at the moon for the rest of the way to Mars. Then it refuels again at Mars for the return journey.
And other things like for longer flight stuff to send people to Europa and whatnot.
No, I mean
that'd be cool.
It seems within our grasp. It does seem like it's within our grasp. It's just the people that do it. This is my biggest fear that I think is going to happen. Is once they finally pull the trigger, you're gonna have a similar thing with like what happened with the Saturn project, right? You're gonna be sending people out there. It's gonna be going great, and then a bunch of people are gonna die. One horrendous event's gonna happen. It's gonna kill a shitload of people, and then everybody's gonna be afraid of the liability to pursue it any further. And the only countries you're going to see doing it are like China and Russia, where it's like their citizens are just disposable.
This is where the privatization of space flight will come in. People will accept the risk. Think like test pilots and stuff back in Chuck Yeager and whatnot.
Yeah,
there's I know that was government. Some of that's government funded and blah blah blah. But when you can start getting into more private industry stuff, people are a lot more willing to accept risk. Like the public doesn't want their money spent on things that are going to blow up and kill people, generally missiles and things.
Well, they don't want their conscience.
And I'm sure that's part of why they scrubbed the shuttle program and stuff, is because like it was wearing out, and how many times you can see, I mean, the fucking shuttle crumbling across Texas and whatnot. But in a private space, like you kind of accept that risk, and people are going to die, people are going to explode, people like. And yeah, the part of that's still going to be government funded. Like SpaceX is heavily subsidized, right, by government contracts. But the people who work for them are like privatized and whatnot. And I think that you're going to have people lining down the block to colonize Mars, and they know it's going to be a one-way trip. They know that they might die on the way. Just like we were talking about this just before the stream. Just like people colonizing North America coming over from Europe, they knew that they could possibly not make it. They knew that when they got there, they could die. And they did. Plenty of colonies failed. Little
and to be fair, the chances were even. I'd argue the chances were even worse back then. Like way worse. Today, if you boarded a ship to Mars, it's like they can sit down and prove to you, like with all the math and everything, that this is viable. Like this is something that most likely could happen if everything goes right. With the Mayflower, no, it's like get on this boat. The wind's gonna just blow you around, and you either find shit or you starve at sea. I mean, your options are very limited.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the first couple tries they make it, but they only last a little while, and it's going to be wicked sad, and people are going to be bummed out, and it's probably going to delay things for a while, years and stuff. But I mean, I feel like that's just part of the risk and of pushing out in exploring space. I got to take a phone call. Hold on.
Oh no, go ahead. Yeah, no, I think honestly, traveling to Mars would be like an amazing feat just for humanity. Like even if it was literally just to travel there, do a couple scientific projects in orbit for like a month, and then just turn around and hightail it back without ever even landing a person on the surface. I think that would hugely like boost people's like opinion of spaceflight in a positive way. But again, the flip side is if people just start dying and it's like you launch mission 1, the people die. You launch mission 2, another unforeseen variable, people die. Launch mission 3, another uncertain, and people die. At a certain point, they're just going to be like, people aren't going to want to sign up for that anymore. However, or the people that do sign up for it are like too much of risk takers. Like now you have the possibility of these people just being suicidal at this point, and the people that you're saying are sending or expecting to die, and that's like a part of their plan. And if that doesn't happen, they start like freaking out and they make it happen. I'm probably just reading into it too much, but it just seems to me like in my head, like if you were going to send somebody to Mars, you said, listen, we're going to put you on a spaceship. There's plenty of food, plenty of water, place to shit, radiation shielding. You're good to go, but it's going to take 6 months to get there. And you're not going to have a safety net to come back home, like period. Like you have to go there and come back because you need the gravity assist or whatever to get back. So you have no choice. You can't just turn around, hit the thrusters and come back, right? It'd take all your fuel just to stop. So you're in it to win it. Like at least with the International Space Station, you're like, what? An emergency happens and you're back on Earth within a half an hour? Like you jump in the capsule that you went up there and you always know you have a safety net. Like on the ISS, like if something starts happening, you have explosive decompression somewhere, close the bulkhead, as long as you can get into a suit, or even not even a suit, an emergency, you could even just get in the capsule, pressurize it, close the damn door and just drop to Earth and take your chances. You at least have a lifeboat. Like with the Mars mission, you don't have that in your head. Like you don't have a thing in your head saying there's an abort switch. And I think that's what would make it really scary is I think people develop psychosis and stuff, just like people do when they're claustrophobic. Like if you know a claustrophobic person, when they're sleeping, it's not a big deal. Like if they're asleep, you can, put them in a tight area and it doesn't matter. But when they wake up, they panic. And the reason they panic is because they're in a tight space and you have this overwhelming sensation of being trapped and you can't get out of it. I know I actually started recently suffering from claustrophobia, different kind of claustrophobia. It's like where you feel like you're trapped inside of your own body. I won't go into it, but it's very bizarre and I don't like it. But once you feel trapped and you start going through the options in your head, if you don't have an option of a safety blanket, you're going to freak out exponentially worse. So like, if you think about it, it's like, okay, well, if you're up on the International Space Station, you push a button, you come back. If you're going to the moon, what is the trip to the moon? Like 3 days or something like that? 3 days there, 3 days back. So it's like, if shit goes wrong or whatever, hang on, stretch out your life support, go all Apollo 13 and swing your ass around and come back. And you still have a chance of survival. Mars, you're like, no, I can't turn around after some accident and expect to make it a 6-month voyage. And the best of times, sometimes the transfer orbit can be like transfer distance can be like 2 years, I think, at the furthest. So, and then your messages take so much longer to get back and forth to Earth. So real-time communication ends up slowing way the hell down. I just feel like that's going to create psychosis that we haven't had anybody deal with yet. Because you can't simulate that. You can't. No matter if you take a person and you put them into a thing and you say, listen, you can't leave this for a year, and you do the biodome experiment. How in the hell are you supposed to do that accurately when everybody knows if there's an emergency? It's not like if they're dying in there, they're not going to pop the hatch and get them out of there. So they know in their head, even though the experiment doesn't give that as an option, they know whether they want to acknowledge it or not. They subconsciously know that if shit hits the fan, they're probably going to survive and they're going to be able to get out of there. Well, when you're in space, that goes away. There's no way your brain's going to be able to convince you with any kind of conditioning that there's a guarantee that you're going to be able to make it back if something goes wrong. So I think that is going to create psychosis, and that's going to be something that we have to deal with moving forward. And that's why any mission that we do like this is going to have multiple people so that they can keep each other company. They can keep each other mentally grounded. They're going to have all kinds of drugs and stuff with them. So if somebody does go batshit nanners crazy or whatever, they can just tranquilize them and let them drool it off for the rest of the trip. I mean, and then you run the risk too of like, you don't have any police out there, right? So it's like, if you put somebody aboard the ship and they go fucking nanners, who's going to save anybody? Like they're like, if somebody just decides on the trip, that's like, you know what? I'm going crazy now, so I'm going to go ahead and steer the ship and burn all of our fuel just heading out into the Kuiper Belt or whatever. It's like, I mean, are you going to have guns space guns to stop them that can kill them but not go through the bulkhead? Are you guys going to train in like some special kind of martial arts where like the majority of the people can overpower the one, even if he's like a fucking ninja warrior? I don't know. I'm probably overthinking it, but it just seems to me like if you put a bunch of people in a tin can and they know for a fact in their mind that there is no chance of recovery if something goes wrong, you're going to have a higher frequency of psychosis. And I think that's one of those things where it's like, we're just going to have to wait and see, right? And I mean, could I be wrong? Could it just there are people that can mentally discipline themselves on a whole different level, right? I mean, think about it. The people that go to the ISS, how often does somebody come back from the ISS because they're homesick? As far as they know, it's never happened. Yeah, and then they had do you guys remember, I think it was a year or two ago, do you remember when there was the national news that like the ISS was sabotaged, where there was like a quarter-sized hole that was made in the bulkhead behind something, and they suspected that it was one of the astronauts that was homesick, did it so that he could, you know, escape and come back to Earth, and he like swore that he was innocent, and he's like, no, I've never, and all of his, and even the other people, most of his other crewmates were like, no, he wouldn't do this, like he was perfectly fine. Yeah, he did miss home, but it wasn't like that. And then they grill the guy, and they find out later that it wasn't even like, it wasn't his fault. They actually went out and did an EVA, looked at the outside, and they found out that the hole was drilled from the outside in, and it was like patched with something. This was something that was done on the ground before the space station launched, and they patched the hole, and then the patch basically just came loose and exposed the hole to space, which created the leak. And so, you know, and everybody felt bad about that. They're like, they basically drugged this guy through the mud. It was all over the news. People are like, and I still hear people telling the story every once in a while. They'll be like, hey, remember that guy that like went nanners on the ISS? And it's like, it didn't happen, right? It's like those guys are mentally disciplined and highly trained to stay up there for like 6 months, a year. I think the record's what, a year and a half or something like that. And I'm going to say it's like a year and 6 months. That somebody stayed up there without ever coming back to Earth. But again, they have new people coming up. They have people going. They have supplies that are constantly being sent up to them. They know that if they break their leg or a life-threatening something happens that requires surgery, they can just throw them in a capsule and drop them back on the planet. I think that is what allows them to keep their focus, right? And just breathe through it and be like, okay, it's an emergency, but I know I have all these safety nets if I need them. So now I can calm down. But imagine what that psychosis would be like if there was no safety net. Like, honestly, it'd be akin to being trapped in a coffin, buried, 100 feet under the earth. It's like if you woke up in a dark coffin and, you got no power, lights are out or whatever, you're like, you're dead. You're going to freak out, panic, breathe all the air and suffocate in a matter of minutes. But if you could wake up and actually be calm and be like, well, listen, there is no apparent way out of this. The odds of me surviving this are astronomically small, but I can live longer if I just stay calm and I breathe through it. That's going to require a level of discipline that I don't know how that even happens with a human, the way we're wired. It'd be like Escape from New York, David said. Self-destruct in every crew member just in case. Dude, that shit would pop off before it even passed the moon. We'd launch it, everybody be all happy. It'd be like a fucking 500,000 miles past the moon, and it'd just be like, oh, the capsule just exploded. The log said that one of the crew members hit the auto destruct button. Apparently it was too much for him. And then they got to go through and read the data logs and figure out like who went nanners, why they went nanners. The other thing that really scares me is imagine getting hurt. Like, I'm surprised this doesn't happen more on the ISS, honestly. And for all I know, maybe it does and we just don't hear about it. But like people having major like injuries or having like their appendix burst or having like a compound fracture or stabbing something into them that causes like a really bad infection. Now, granted, I know it's a pretty sterile environment up there, but there's still microbes. Like they're still doing experiments and shit. So it's like, I mean, what do you do? What do you do when you're just like sitting there and it's like all your shit's broke, and you can't go home?
Give up.
Just give up and die.
Yep.
Hey, how's your phone call, man? Good time?
It's good. Yeah,
nice.
It's good.
Let's see. Do I have a? Hey, Yui, thank you for your subscribe to the channel. Love the name, Kriegy. Thank you for the subscribe. Let's see. Do I get the right thing up? Hold on, I might not have the right thing.
Left thing up.
I have the left thing up. Maybe the right thing. Yeah. Wait, is this the?
How come we're not looking at each other anymore? What is going on?
What do you mean?
On the YouTube, we don't face each other like we used to, like we are in the video thing. Like I don't understand why it reverses like the
I don't know.
Me, it reverses me or whoever is in first, I think, and it's usually me.
Yeah, because I don't have anything here. I mean, it does show you face. You're obviously facing. I'm facing you, but you're just not facing me.
Yeah, we should be looking inward, right?
But the weird thing is, like, it reverses me. Like if you look at the dashboard, I'm facing away from you in the dashboard. But if you look at the actual stream, I'm facing the other way. So it's flipping me. It's just not flipping you.
So that's weird. In video, we're both facing the center.
Are you serious? Because on my side, it's the other way around. It's you first, and then me second. We're facing away from each other. So yeah, none of this shit is consistent.
And then on the YouTube, we're both facing to the left. From my perspective, like we're looking to the left side of my screen.
Weird.
It's weird.
I'm surprised they don't just have a feature in here with all the features that they have. I'm surprised they don't have a feature just like flip them. Like that should be something that supported, but it doesn't give me that option. Let's see here. What do we got going over here in chat? See, I feel like it's going to be a part of the training, though, the psychological stuff. Oh, definitely. I mean, they're going to have to. Honestly, I think psychology is probably going to be one of the biggest parts of traveling to Mars. Period.
Oh yeah. Oh
like,
yeah.
Honestly, conditioning yourself to just let go and be like, there is no way out other than what I can do for myself, and that's it. Like, I can't depend on anything.
That's why they've investigated sending couples, married couples, and things like that. Which
that's
seems
not a bad idea.
Seems counterintuitive if you're like American, or I don't know, just in general. I suppose it seems like it'd be weird. Like, oh, why would you want to put married couples together? Like, you'd think they'd fucking kill each other. It does lend. They've done like experiments and stuff out in the Arizona deserts and things with like biodome kind of stuff, and it does actually help. It does actually make a difference to have people who are in, and there still be like psychological exams and things like that to make sure. But there would, it is helpful. It is helpful people to in those sorts of committed relationships and stuff.
Well, I mean, the level of trust that you would have in your partner would be infinitely higher. Like, I know that people can build like huge bonds and camaraderie and stuff just by working together for long periods of time. But like when you marry somebody, it's like I've sat there and watched you take a poop, man. I've sat there, I've taken a shower with you. It's
like
there's nothing off limits there.
I do think that they would have to evaluate their like how do I put this? Like I don't know if there's like a jealousy quotient, because you put 24 people, even if they're married or whatever, in long-term committed relationships, there's going to be some fluidity to those relationships. Like, they're going to have to be like, swingers, kind of. Like, it's just, that is like, that they're going to have to accept that shit's going to happen and not freak the fuck out and kill each other about it.
I'd have to imagine, though, that like astronauts would be open to that because of the scientific mind aspect and not being clouded by religion so much and things like that. You'd think that they'd be able to like be like, oh, this is the most optimal way to do things.
Emotional shit like can trump a lot of logic sometimes.
I agree with that. No, I definitely agree with that.
Like, and I know it does in my life. They'd have to test them out for like y'all gonna live in this weird bunker for 3 months before we even send you. You're all gonna have to go sit all by yourselves and test this out for 3-6 months before we even try to put you in a rocket. Man, yeah. It's funny though, some people are saying like COVID, we all found out how well we could survive in a boat. That's funny you say that, because like a lot of my neighbors and stuff were like getting, or you'd see those news stories of people getting on their nerves and whatnot, and like me and my wife were like, yeah, like we like to be alone together. Like, this is not so bad. Like, it's okay.
Yeah, no, they said that like divorce rates went up like astronomically because people were being forced together. And it turns out that in a lot of relationships, the reason the relationship works is because they don't spend a lot of time together. And I'm like, that's weird to even like imagine that. Like, why would you marry somebody if you couldn't stand being around them 24/7?
I love this concept. I can't remember who. I think the guy I heard it from was paraphrasing somebody else, but he's like the truest expression, or like the truest, like true love is like, or as like your love grows and whatnot, you sort of become introverts together. And I was like, yeah. I'm like, don't get me wrong. I love hanging out with my friends and stuff, and I like the people that my neighbors and all that stuff. They're really cool folk, and I like hanging out with them and stuff. But I'm totally cool with just hanging out with my wife.
Yeah, no,
it's totally
I'm
cool.
The same way.
It's totally cool. I love it. It's fine. It's great.
For me, that's actually the default like existence. Like, if I'm sitting there by myself, I actually get lonely when she's not around. It's like when she's around, it's not like a timer's running, like when she's sitting there where it's like, oh, after a while you're gonna get on my nerves. It's like when she's gone, I'm sad, and when she's around, I'm happy. And even if we're not doing anything, even if we don't say a word to each other, even if we're both just sitting there messing on our phones or watching TV or watching our own shows or whatever, it doesn't matter. Just like being in the same space like makes me happy and gives me like a sense of calm. So I'd have to imagine that for, it's the same for a lot of other people too, where it's like if they were put together on a capsule and sent off somewhere, they could keep each other centered, because it's like, listen, when you're panicking, I'm here for you. When you're panicking, I'm here for you. It's like, and you'd work it out, and you'd know that as long as you guys were both there, you're good to go. But the only other problem you run into with emotional connections like that is like, what happens if your wife gets sick and die, or you get sick and die? How do they handle that? Right. Because it's like, you could professionally handle that if you were on a crew, and you'd be sad that they were gone, but you'd be like, this is acceptable losses. But what if like your loved one was dying? It's like, they need something, and you could either kill this other person and take it from them to save the person you love, and then the mission fails, or you go ahead with the mission and watch your loved one die when you could have done something about it.
That's why they would test it out. That's why they'd have to test out their crew months and months ahead of time and put them through different scenarios and stuff like that. Yeah. And again, that's why I think it'd have to be fairly fluid, and like all of the couples would also have to get along well enough to be able to support each other in that way. What they'd end up doing is, okay, there, you figure out your couples, and I don't think they would just do like married couples and things like that, because eventually that concept is probably going to fall apart at colonization side of things. Like, you can't hold that kind of stuff together for very long. IMO. So you're going to go through all kinds of psyche vows and blah blah blah, and you're going to have a group of people who are not just committed to their partners, but also committed to the crew, the team as well, to the colony and all that stuff. And then you throw them together for 3 months, 6 months, a year or whatever, and you stick them in a box and you poke at them and stuff to make sure that, and you suddenly, they wake up one morning and Jim's missing. Where the fuck did he go? He's the critical guy who knows how to turn the right knob to make the thing do its widgety stuff. And what are you going to do? And, those kinds of stuff, things like that. And like, man, it'd be like a year of training and poking and prodding and figuring out how to break them.
I mean, everybody would have to be a jack of all trades too, because you couldn't just have one doctor, because if the doctor dies, everybody else does too.
Super overlapping stuff. And man, giant knowledge-based stuff like, where did I go? Yeah, Jim, where'd you go, you slacker? You got to turn the knob that does the widgety things. So,
hey, Melters and Rock Clausen, thank you for that $20 super chat, man. We appreciate that so much. That's Physics, by the way, from Twitch. Long time viewer. He said, Oxman, love the beard. Love the beard. Hey, we appreciate that tip, dude. Yeah. We appreciate it. $20 make me holla. Did you guys see Webb found the most distant galaxy yet? Yeah, I did see that.
Oh man, there's so much cool stuff coming out of that
trip. Like, we can see to the edge of where light can reach us now. Man. Like there is no, we can't see any further. Like, physics don't allow it.
So cool.
Which to me still is a trip, because I'm like, how I still don't quite understand it. Like, a lot of things, but it's like, how can we estimate the size of the universe when there's a certain point where we just can't see beyond it? Like, I understand we can look at like how things are moving away from each other and Doppler effect and all that, make estimations, but without knowing what it looks like beyond that point, like,
I guess. I don't see how you it's how do you? I'm sure there's a math. I know that there is a proper answer to this question, but in a rhetorical sense, how do you know? How do you figure out how big the world is when all you've got are like trees and sticks and stuff? They like the whole idea.
You'll never be accurate.
Oh, bullshit. The ancient Egyptians had the circumference of the planet down like very, very close to what we eventually figured out with space stuff. Like,
well, again, relative. Math. What do you consider very, very close? Because some things very, very close is within millionths, right? And sometimes it's within 100 feet or 1,000 feet. It just depends on what you're looking at and why.
Even down to if they were off by 1,000 feet, that's amazing considering the true enormity of the planet. Like,
well, here's
that's
a question for you though.
Right?
How could they know? How could they know when it's like oval shaped and you have mountains and stuff? Depending on which line you take, it's going to be different.
So I think that's part of where their inaccuracy was. They probably would have assumed more of a spherical assumption based on like equator or whatever, but it's more advanced math than I know. I'm sure it's some sort of trigonometry stuff, triangles and shadows and things. Because they knew the world was roundish for thousands of years. The whole bullshit about medieval time thinking Columbus did not think the planet was flat. Okay, nobody thought the planet was flat at that point. Like, that's dumb. I mean, sure, some people may have, but that's stupid. They had long since agreed that the planet is round long ago. Though I think the truth of that is like Columbus thought that the planet was like half as big as it really was. Like, they knew that over that way eventually you'd get to somewhere, but they didn't know whether it was just one big giant ocean or if they were eventually going to bump into China. So like,
and then there's other things where we come up with theories.
How big?
We come up with theories that work for 99% of shit, but then there's like one thing that breaks it.
Right.
And then we do the research, try to figure out what the one thing that breaks it is, and then we come up with theories for that, and then we adjust our thinking to go, oh, well, we were completely wrong the whole time. But what we were thinking was right. Like, it allowed us to do the math for like the basic shit. But when you try to do more advanced stuff, then that was wrong. Like, we got to throw that away and not use that anymore. for like the accuracy of stuff. Like I think I was reading somewhere was like pi or something like that, 3.1415, and like the precision of pi and its relevancy to building different things.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's like the precision that you need to be, you know, when you're using it for manufacturing like the airfoil on an airplane, or what is it, the Fibonacci sequence or whatever. Depending on what you're trying to make or what you're trying to do, the level of accuracy can be way off, or it has to be like infinitely precise, depending on like what you're doing with it. But we just get as close as we can, right? It's like, I don't think we ever factored pi out to the last place. I'm pretty sure we have, right?
No.
So
you
how
can't.
many? Are you sure? Because I thought that
the best way to visualize.
Hold on here.
The best way to visualize why pi can't ever be like it's endless.
It's recursive, yeah.
Is because the idea is you're trying to square a circle, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to square off a circle. How many edges can you fit inside of a circle? You can fit an infinite number of tiny ass. It will infinitely get smaller edges forever.
Yeah, it's the same thing. If you divide something by 2, you'll never get to 0, right? It's like or distance. So if you like take a distance, you're like, okay, 100 feet divided by 2 is 50, then 25.
Yeah, half the distance.
You keep having it, you'll never actually get to your destination. You'll just infinitely slow down, but you'll always be moving. It's like that little thought experiment's crazy. Okay, so it looks like the record is 31 trillion decimal places is the furthest that we've calculated pi to.
I'm sure they got some Raspberry Pi out there just crunching away for thousands of years. They're just going to leave it there and just, but it's never ending, so there's no point. Yeah,
the question is, I wonder if there's anything, I don't know, how would I even word this? Like if there's anything out there that would require that level of precision. Like what thing would we be trying to do and achieve that level of precision to like 31 billion decimal places, where if you're off by 1, you're done.
I can see if we start getting into like replicator sort of level of things, like where you're pushing atoms around to build stuff, it would be important.
Yeah, I suppose. And
where,
then like, you have the subatomic too, right? It's like atomic level is huge compared to the subatomic now.
Yeah, where maybe you're trying to put stuff together at a super tiny, you know.
Hey, what's up, Gimpy? Gimpy's in the house.
What up?
Did you hear? He got the vid, man.
Oh, bogus.
He got the vid. I'm guessing it's not a particularly bad run of it though, because he's like here talking and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I saw that, I was like, oh man, my heart sank, man. I'm glad you're doing okay though. Because I was like, dude, I don't want, after everything Gimpy's been through, now he's got to be like freaking stuck in his chair in the corner hacking up a lung. Like, that's not fun.
Damn.
Hope you're doing okay, buddy. Pi is irrational. It doesn't end. Thank you, Jim. Got to run. Parents need parking and lifting and tea. All right, take it easy, David. Thank you for stopping by, man. What is Zeno's paradox? Is the name of that thought experiment? Oh, okay.
Let's look.
The halving, the infinite halving.
Oh, where you're making it, where you're going to half the distance, sort of stuff. Philosophical problems generally thought to have been divided. Okay,
good old Wikipedia, man.
Yeah, right. I don't know why people poop on why you're not allowed to use Wikipedia as a proper source anymore. Like, I understand, like, oh, it's editable and stuff, but like Wikipedia is probably the most like hardcore looked after like set of knowledge, where like any change. I heard one time, I heard a story about a guy who spent like years building up his cred of being an editor for Wikipedia, and then like changed the size of a battleship by like 2 centimeters or something, and was immediately caught, like within minutes, and banned for it because it was false.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I've actually been banned from editing Wikipedia before too.
Like,
because I went in there and added some stuff in there that was less than I did it on purpose though. I was like literally trolling somebody. But they were able to find the changes. I think it was within 10 or 15 minutes. I got an email. It's like, oh, the community has rejected your changes. If you make changes like this in the future, you'll be banned from making changes. And then I did it again. And then they're like, okay, well, you can never make changes again. You are now permanently banned. And I haven't tried to make a change yet. So I don't know. The ban may still be in effect, but I haven't tested it in years. Yeah, I was just trolling somebody because I think it was a page on one of the drama tubers or something like that. And so I just went in there and like kept page dumping links to screenshots and stuff. They were on their Twitter hoping that people that were going to look at it could see like the stuff that they were up to and the bad shit that they were doing to other people. And they're like, this is not factual, so this is rejected. This is not factual, this is rejected. This is an assumption. And there's like a reason. They have to put a reason each time they delete your stuff as to why it's gone. But I'm like, there's no way somebody could be working at Wikipedia like watching these things in real time. So this has got to be like the community signing up to be to just basically be caretakers of this data, as I imagine it works. Like if you're interested in a topic or something like that, you get a level of trust looking at other people's stuff, and then that level of trust builds. I'm not sure if that's how it works, but I would assume that by how fast they engage me, there's got to be some community effort behind it. And you can also like you can appeal too. That's the other thing too. Like if somebody like knocks down your stuff, you can actually appeal it and say no, here's the rest of the data. Let me modify it and make it more well-rounded. Because if you don't do sources, if it's an opinion, they immediately delete it. Like if you just go in there and say, oh, I think this person's doing this, or I suspect this person might be doing this, they won't allow you to do that. But if you word it in the sense of this person is suspected of doing this, and then you cite your evidence, like a website or a journalist or something saying it, then you can do that. But you have to be very, very careful not to present something as fact unless it's confirmed fact and you cite your source. So I think Wikipedia is amazing. Like, now don't get me wrong, I've gotten misinformation from Wikipedia before, but I'd say that it's less than I get from most places that would be considered absolutely trusted on a topic. So I don't even know. Am I even on Wikipedia anymore? I used to be. Here, let's see. Barnacules Nerdgasm. Let's see here. Or maybe it's under just Barnacules. Let me see. I used to have a Wikipedia page a long time. Nope, it's not there anymore. Damn.
Oh.
Damn. I used to have one. Well, darn it. I guess I'm just not cool anymore, guys. Yeah, I used to be famous, man.
Bogus.
Well, they're right about the whole Hollywood thing. Apparently, that transfers over to online careers too, right? It's like you can only burn bright for a little while, and then you have to find your end so that somebody else has their 15 minutes of the spotlight. Hey, Space Delta, thank you for the $2 super chat. We appreciate that. He said, I wish I had $20. Take my last two. Sir, thank you so much for your last $2, but I really hope that isn't your last $2 because, of course, we don't want anybody tipping that can't afford to just throw that money in the garbage. So we're not looking to make anybody else poor because, like I've said a million times on my Twitch stream, I make sure that people know this, and I need to actually put it in the rules at some point, is that if you have to give me something that makes your life more difficult, then at some point that's not sustainable, which means you can't give me any more support in the future.
Yeah, man. I hope you being serious about that last $2 stuff. Like, don't do that.
Yeah, and I check too. People might think like, oh, obviously he's joking, and it's like, yeah, it might be 99% of the time, but no, I have actually ran into people before that have accidentally tipped like $10 when they meant to tip $1, and they're like, oh crap, I'm gonna, and they won't say anything. You have to actually like talk to them, be like, hey, are you sure about that or whatever? And they'll come back and be like, oh man, I really just meant to do $1, but I'm embarrassed now because I'm having a hard time and I can't pay my bills or whatever. It's like, dude, don't ever feel obligated to ever give a penny to anybody if you are struggling. Like, seriously, take care of yourself. And then, hey, if you get to a point sometime where it's like you can wad up 20s and throw them in the garbage when you're drunk, then yeah, throw them at us. I'd absolutely love that. But otherwise, don't bother. Like that, don't put yourself out. That sucks because that also puts stress on streamers too. Yeah, man. Like they might not say it, but it's very stressful when you get an email from somebody and they're like, hey, that $50 I tipped you or whatever. Yeah, I just got wrapped up in the moment and I felt on the spot or whatever. And, now I'm struggling and blah, blah, but it's totally worth it. Like, I really just wanted to support you. And it's like, you're just reading that. And you're like, man, I don't want anybody to feel that way.
Yeah.
Like that would absolutely suck knowing that your living that you're making to like support your family is actually costing somebody else theirs. So that's why I'm a big fan of like calling out and making fun of stuff like hype trains and things on Twitch. They're cool. Don't get me wrong, there's a cool element to it, participation, but unfortunately a lot of that stuff drives people to spend money that they don't have.
Yeah.
And I don't like that aspect of it. I wish that I could snap my fingers and make that aspect just completely go away, but unfortunately businesses are predatory. And especially when they say they're not. That's one thing I've noticed with a trend is whenever a company like goes out of its way to state that it's not predatory, that's usually like raise an eyebrow. That's because that means that they're thinking about it. They're actively thinking about, people might see this as predatory. Better explain it.
Yeah. If you got to say you're a good guy, you're probably not. Put stress on ethical streaming. I don't know that for some reason that phrase like triggered something inside of me. It's like, what does that mean? What do you mean ethical streamer? Like, are there unethical streamers? What would I suppose? I mean, I suppose there are. Yeah, I guess. Okay, now again, this is like on the fly. I'm like thinking through this right in the moment. So like it's just a stream of consciousness. So yeah, I guess there could be unethical streamers.
You wouldn't think there'd be unethical streamers because your audience is your revenue. So you wouldn't want to make your audience mad, or you wouldn't want to make. But that's
perfect
the thing.
Example is this was years ago. A guy had been streaming 4 years, and like got pissed off or something, got real upset during a stream, and he was in a wheelchair. He was in a wheelchair, like a regular one, nothing out over the top. Got pissed off at something, like something chat was getting on him or about something, or he was pissed off around about something. Gets up, stands up, walks out of the room live on stream after having been live streaming for years in a wheelchair. And that was like part of his,
I know the guy that you're talking about. No, it wasn't somebody pissed him off. He thought he switched the scene. He said, "Hey, I'll be right back."
Okay.
And he thought he switched the scene, and then you see him just kind of sitting there, like looking around his desk, and then he gets up out of the chair and walks off frame.
Yeah,
and you're like,
picture that clip, and I'm like,
yep. And then he comes back like immediately, like a minute later, and sits down in the chair or whatever, and he's like, "Oh yeah, guys, oh yeah." And he was like trying to explain his way out of it, and then he ended up just terminating the stream. I remember that because I saw the video of it happening.
Crazy
and, but he realized
like
that
that's unethical.
You can't fix that. And
or what about
like Gimpy, when Gimpy streams and lies about his house burning down and being in a wheelchair when we all know that he has like 2 Learjets and like lives in a Manhattan apartment.
There was this one gal who was streaming Overwatch, and she actually got like onto a pro team or something, like, and that's when it all kind of fell apart. Turns out her boyfriend had been actually playing while it was her boyfriend playing while she was streaming.
Yep.
And yeah, like they found it out because like she somehow, I don't know, why would you even accept an invitation to a team if you knew that you weren't the one playing? Like, you think you could still get away with that? Like, your boyfriend's going to be off behind you or something? It's like, man,
it was the money, because it's like you combine the two, like a super hot lady that's like just vibing with the dudes, and then like this amazing esports gaming, and it's like that's a combination that just kills, right? It's like, so they're creating something that is, I mean, just like Milli Vanilli lip syncing, right?
Yeah.
It's like there are ways that you can appear to be better than everybody else by literally just faking it, right? Fake it till you make it. Yeah. And I've seen so many streamers. Oh my God, in the gaming community, if you go to YouTube and you just type in, I think, what is it? Gaming live streamers caught cheating.
Oh yeah.
And it's like so many of them, they'll switch the scene and they'll accidentally do screen capture instead of app capture, and it'll show like this cheat on the screen as they're doing it. And they'll be like, they'll headshot it, and then they'll be like, they'll look at the stream and they'll catch it, and they'll be like, or their mods will message them and they'll be like, oh wow, you guys see something on my screen? I don't see it, when you can clearly see that they're reacting to the graphics on the screen. And then they eventually just panic and they just like turn off the stream and then go away. And then later on they come back and they're like, oh my, but after they figure out a story, they're like, oh yeah, my friend came over and they must have installed hacks on my computer because I let him use my computer to play some games. And it's like, but how would you not notice? It was literally on your screen. You can't say that it wasn't. It absolutely, and you were reacting to it. Like, you frame by frame analysis shows that when you see this person hidden behind a wall, you are purposefully aiming at an empty wall and just shooting at it. Like, you would not do that without the overlays. So, but they try. I mean, they try, and then when they usually fail, one of two things happens. Either they completely disappear, or they come forward and they do their little apology thing, where they go around, they're like, oh, I'm sorry, and then they quit their esports team or whatever, and then they just go back to doing something else or the same thing. And people, and the funny thing is, people do forgive in a lot of these cases. Like, I've seen people that have done horrendous things on live streams, they'll come back and there's still a decent part of their audience that'll stick around. But this is another problem that I have with streaming, is the hero worship that people have for certain streamers. And I've seen this, it drives me absolutely fucking nuts. And you'll know exactly what I'm talking about too, because I see it all the time. Anytime you see a live streamer who has done something bad, like, and I'm not talking about like suspected of doing something bad, I mean literally got caught doing something horrendous, right? And a lot of their audience will leave, but then you'll see a whole subsection of their audience that used to be silent coming forward and like coddling them, even though they know they did a terrible thing. And it's because they have access to them now. Yeah. And this is the weirdest phenomenon, because what'll happen is people will be like, oh, I really love this streamer. Like, let me give you an example. Say Mr. Beast. Let's say Mr. Beast, he has the hugest audience in the world. He streams, he has 40,000 people. He's never going to see your message. Like, you could tag him a million times. The odds of him ever seeing and responding to your message are absolutely nil, until he gets caught like doing something really, really terrible and unforgivable, and like 3/4 of his audience leaves. And then all of a sudden you're like, you tag him and he responds to you. You're like, hey, Mr. Beast, like you're getting a bad rap or whatever. Then he replies, oh, hey, thank you for the support or whatever. And then they're like, oh my God, my favorite streamer replied to me. Oh my God. And then they're all in and they're like, I will defend you even if you killed kittens, because now I have a level of access to you that I never had before. And it's like, but you're like, but the whole reason you looked up to that person in the first place was because of the thing they lied about, or because you thought they were a better person. So why are you still so impressed by being in touch with them now when you figure out who they really are? Yeah. That's the part I don't get. And I see it happen all the time. Like, it happened with the lady, I'm not even going to say her name, but the lady that accused Linus of sexual impropriety, right?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, she was absolutely lying out her ass. All the cards are there. All the evidence is there.
Yeah.
I even called her a friend at one point, but I was like, I couldn't believe that she like did that shit. But the thing I noticed is everybody called her out on it. And but you saw this subsect of people come forward that were like, oh my God, like, no, we know that you're the victim here. And we know that you really need, oh my God. And she replied to every one of them, even when she ignored them before. Like, you never see her replying to any of these small guys. But the second she's in trouble, she's replying to all of them, just trying to hang on to every single piece of support she can get. And so you get this group of people that'll capitalize on that. They'll come in and they'll be like, oh, you know, I don't care if they're a terrible person. I don't care if they're a drama tuber that attacks and hurts other people in the community and makes up bullshit stories just to grow my own channel. They're like, well, now I'm getting their attention, so I'm just going to forgive all that because now I have access to them. Nope. But it's like, again, it's like, why is that? The whole point of having the access is you consider them a famous person and all your friends know. Are they going to be that impressed when the person's responding to you when they're now like a criminal? Like, I guess I don't see the value in it anymore. It's like, at that point, are they really a celebrity anymore? I guess some people have a hard time differentiating that in their head. But yeah. I would argue that no, like as soon as it doesn't matter if you're like the greatest live streamer that ever lived. It's like the second that you're doing stuff to children or diddling children, whatever, you're no longer, you know, seen as good at anything. You are just trash. But there's some people out there that, boy, they see that as an opportunity and they just go running in white knighting like crazy. So and when I see that, I just look at that, and I just shake my head and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm sure you guys have seen it. Oh, Daniel said Mr. Beast all the time. No. Mr. Beast. No. I was using this example because he's the largest YouTuber ever. By the way, he surpassed PewDiePie. Congratulations, Mr. Beast. He is right now the largest YouTuber that has ever lived. Cool. But no, I was using him in this example because he was so big, right? The fact that everybody knows who he is. He's a worldwide name. I was using him kind of as an example, but no, the thing is, I like Jimmy. And the reason I like him is because he discloses like what he really does. Like he's not a mystery, right? It's like he explains exactly like what he does with his money, how he uses it, you know, his how he's been so successful and what he does because he's willing to reinvest every dime of everything for so long without taking anything away. Whereas other people can't help themselves, right? When they're doing good, they want to spend some of that money and have a lot of fun with it. And so it slows them down. And it's hard to compete with somebody who's willing to reinvest 100% when you're only willing to reinvest 50. So, but it's funny. I've been watching interviews with him lately, though. You get to see a new side of him, though. I've noticed where he is a lot more hardcore and blunt. Like if you watched any of the latest interviews with that's one thing I've noticed. He always comes off as like this really nice guy, like super, you know, family friendly because of the videos, right? But boy, I've been watching him on these live streams lately, getting reviewed by some of these 18+ channels. And boy, when he just takes the filter off, you're just like, holy shit, man, he's savage. But I got nothing against him. I don't. Mr. Beast, I used to think he was a fake and a phony, and then I did my research, and I was like, wow, for once, I'm actually surprised.
Nice.
For once, I'm surprised. He actually, you know, he does what he says, and there's a lot of people in this business that don't. Hey, Robert Settles, thank you for that $20. Thank you, sir. Just a little payday. So sorry, I'm having a hard time catching my breath here. I've been having some trouble breathing. New medication they got me on, it fucking sucks. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I do like what the medication does on the good side. It's just the side effect is it makes my diaphragm kind of weak and makes it hard to breathe and catch my breath sometimes, which isn't the greatest for streaming. So we might have to do something about that. Let's see, where was I going with this? Artemis launch. We were just talking about space earlier. We should probably touch on this. So
man.
Who in chat watched the Artemis launch? So this is the SLS, NASA's SLS rocket. What is a $1 billion rocket per $1 billion launch or something like that? They're estimating at for the SLS. Deal, yeah. I mean, it's a big boy, right? And if you put it next to a Falcon 9, it looks like the Falcon 9 could just like a dozen of them could park inside of it. It's huge. Like I didn't realize SLS is as big as it is. I looked at a picture of it next to next to Saturn V. It's huge. It's actually more powerful than the Saturn V. It's the single most powerful rocket that we have ever created, launched from this planet. Cool. And she finally went off without, well, I shouldn't say without a hitch. Like they still had problems. I guess a network switch died that almost killed the whole thing. They had some leaks that they had to resolve, but they got those fixed. But they finally, after so many cancellations, so many moving back and forth between the pads, they finally just said, screw it. We got to do it. Push the button, make it go. And I thought they were going to scrub. Like everything they were talking about, like towards the end there, I thought they were going to scrub. My money was on scrub. And they were like, no, push the button. Let's go. And she took off. And holy crap, man, like without a hitch. Like it did exactly what it was supposed to so far. Right now, is it there yet? Is Artemis at the moon yet? I think it was like, what they say, 3 days?
I don't know. Let's see.
So right now there's a capsule, not unlike the old Gemini capsules, right?
Yeah.
There's the new version of that capsule that is going towards the moon right now from Artemis that has a mannequin aboard it with the new spacesuit.
They didn't put real people in there?
No, no real people this time. They're not like Elon Musk. They're not gonna just go throw a bunch of real people in there.
What's the point of that? It's not like we don't know what we're doing. We send people. We've done this before. Why not?
Dude, you couldn't have paid me to step foot on the fucking Artemis rocket with the track record they've had lately. Like with all the recalls and like empty, like failing seals and stuff. There's so many things have gone wrong. You couldn't pay me to get in that damn thing.
Lame.
I'd rather get a Dragon capsule, and you know how I feel about Elon Musk. So,
no, that's boo.
Dude, I thought
the moon.
So what is the first Artemis mission? They're just gonna do some laps around the moon, I think, and do some scans and take pictures and stuff, and then they come back to Earth.
Lame.
I believe
this is in space. Sucks. I'm mad now.
You know what's crazy though is how much power it takes to escape, like with any sizable payload, to escape Earth's orbit, or to escape Earth's gravity, I should say,
right.
because just to get to the moon, we had to create a rocket that's like bigger than the Saturn V was to get us to the freaking moon, the next closest body.
It's actually shorter. It's not as tall, but way more powerful.
Way more power.
Yeah, I was looking at their little. They got this infographic thing here. It says the Saturn V was 363 feet. The SLS is 322, but produces 13% more thrust than the space shuttle, 15% more than Saturn V during liftoff and ascent.
Dude, you watched the launch, right? Oh, dude, you got to watch it when you get a second. Like, just watch the replay, because the flame that's coming out of the bottom of the thing when it launches is absolutely insane. It makes the Saturn V rocket look like a toy.
Oh, I bet.
It's insane. It's nuts, dude. It's absolutely nuts how much thrust those solid fuel boosters are running on. It's nuts. I think they're solid fuel, aren't they? Aren't they the boosters that they have? On the side?
The two ones on the side are solid rocket boosters.
Those are solid. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I remember they said, because when they jettisoned them, they were still burning. Like when they did the process where they dropped them off because they didn't need them anymore, they were still just whipping around and burning off the rest of their fuel. But when that thing lit and took off, I mean, it was slow as hell too, because it's just such a big rocket. It's like slow motion, right? When it takes off, it's like you see it like slowly accelerate. And you're like, it's just a total pig compared to like the Falcon 9. But the amount of flame that was coming out of the bottom of the thing was just crazy. Like, you've never seen anything like it. I actually, but the thing is, like, it takes that to get. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
It takes that to get to the moon. Seriously? Like, I don't know. Do we still have Jim in here? Hey, Jim, are you still here? You're our science guy for the moment. Why the hell does it take that much of a rocket just to get? And the only thing we're sending is like the capsule, right? It's the capsule and like one other little piece, maybe like the combined payload of maybe like 5,000 pounds, 8,000 pounds or something like that. That's all we're sending, and it takes every bit of that rocket to get it to the moon. I mean, oh my God, why does it take so much damn energy to escape Earth's gravity? Like, or are we not even fully fueling it yet? Are we only partially fueling it to get it to the moon? And like, the goal is for it to have a lot more headroom to go even further. But as far as I know, the Artemis is just to go to the moon, right? Like, I think the Artemis platform was designed to go to the moon, and that's about it. And so it makes me wonder, like, how much bigger do these rockets have to get, like, when we want to start taking huge payloads and shit to Mars? Like, obviously, if it takes that much of a rocket just to get a capsule to the moon, like, we're gonna have to like launch a rocket, put it in orbit, refuel it in orbit, and then go one direction and refuel at the end to come back. Like, we're gonna need gas stations all scattered all over the damn place.
Yeah, exactly.
He said, as a microbiologist, I can tell you one thing: the moon is really far away.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Oh, come on, Jim. Don't sell yourself short, man. You might be a microbiologist, but you know a lot of things about a lot of other stuff.
I once met a microbiologist in person. It was a lot bigger than I expected.
Oh, I see what you did there. Hey, wait, was that a penis joke towards me? Because I've heard that joke re-jiggered just a little bit. It's like something like, do you have an electron microscope? Because I want to sex you, baby. Oh, God, you're terrible. Or what was the other joke? Oh, on Twitch, my joke is always, I'm like a turtle. It only comes out when it's hungry. That's a good one. I want to put that on the t-shirt. You laughed. You know, if you're watching, you laughed. If you didn't laugh, you're going to hell. Hey, Digibrat said that's why they want to make a bigger space base and a resupply with smaller rockets and build the big spaceships in space. I mean, that does make sense, and Star Trek totally got that right. That's one thing I like. Is like the whole idea of building stuff in orbit is the only way you're going to be able to do it if you're building anything huge.
Yeah, yeah. The moon will become a big manufacturing plant to pump out satellites and stuff because you can jump off of the moon easy.
And the thing is, I'm gonna call BS on Starship. I know a lot of people are gonna be like, oh, but no, not just because of the timeline, but dude, look how complicated these rocket engines are. The failure rate on these rocket engines and how complicated they are. Look, and he's got what 39 of them on the booster, and then how many on Starship? Like, and if that thing blows up, you lose how many engines? Like these engines are like hugely expensive. Like if you get to reuse them, it's awesome. But if one blows up, you've just lost like an enormous amount of engines that take a long time to manufacture and test. So I'm like, I don't see this being like plausible. Like I get it's cool. Like, oh yeah, we got Starship's got all these engines, all this power, and it'll be able to go up and refuel. And then we'll launch one in orbit with fuel. That'll fuel the other one. It'll go to Mars. And you look at it, and you're like, okay, this is cool in concept.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. They've found if I recall correctly, they did find helium-3 up there. There's water. There's ice pockets and stuff. So not necessarily. We could get hydrogen already on the moon. We could synthesize some of this stuff. We wouldn't necessarily have to send fuel up to the moon.
Yeah,
there is the possibility of manufacturing it on the moon.
Well, yeah, didn't they already do a science mission with the rover to Mars that said that they could create fuel from the regolith?
3 on the moon. Yeah. I think that was a TikTok topic.
That was already an experiment they did because they created oxygen and they created hydrogen, which they said that they can use pumps and solar energy to pump it down and compress it. And the modern rocket engines that are going to be going to Mars are going to be hydrogen.
Earlier this year, China returned helium-3 from the moon.
Yeah. So what's helium-3 used for?
I imagine you break out the hydrogen. I imagine you break out the hydrogen from it.
Okay.
I'm guessing, total guess, not sure, but I know that's tossed around a lot when talking about rocket fuel and stuff.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, used as a fuel in future nuclear fusion power plants. Let's see, what is it used? It looks like everybody's talking about fusion for using it as a fuel source.
Okay. Well, yeah.
I mean, ultimately, we'd have to, right? Like, if chemical fuel rockets are only going to get us so far.
Yeah.
Like at some point we have to have something like fusion where it's like we can carry an astronomically small amount of fuel that just goes forever. Like, I mean, you have to I think right now, what is it? Nuclear submarines or something only have to be like refueled every 2 years when they're underway. And it's like a really small nuclear reactor. And the only reason they refuel them is because the radiation levels, they want to keep them low and it becomes more radioactive the longer you use it. So, but I want to say like going full tilt 24/7, it's like 2 years or something. It might even be more than that. Maybe it's 20 years.
From the Aerospace America, it says oxygen comprises about 80% of our rocket propellant needs, and this can be extracted from the dry regolith anywhere on the surface of the moon. There's just a bunch of oxygen they were just hanging out in rocks.
Make dirt fuel. Because they already did the experiment. I can't remember the name of the experiment, but they had a box experiment that was on the latest rover that we sent. And they said that it actually did create like a small amount of oxygen. I think they said it was the equivalent of like 3 breaths or 4 breaths or something for a human, but they did it. Like they actually created oxygen on the planet with what was there and only using the energy from the onboard reactor, what is it, 100 and some odd watt or something like that. I guess it is a nuclear reactor, right? It's not really a nuclear reactor as if you'd like consider it, but it's like it uses a decay to create heat, and then it uses the heat in a thermistor to generate power, if I'm not mistaken. So it's basically like a solid state nuclear generator. And they last for like a long time. Moxie, that's the name of it. Yeah, the experiment was called Moxie. That's right. So I looked up nuclear submarines. They have to be fueled every 7 to 10 years. To have the reactor like refitted with new fuel rods. So imagine that though. You have something that has like, you know, a million I don't know how many horsepower, but 1 million horsepower or whatever, that's just going full tilt, always on the move, constantly. And it can do that for 7 to 10 years, like continuously without needing to be serviced. I think that's pretty baller, man. Like if we can do that with a submarine, it's like, yeah, we could probably do it with a rocket. It's just we have to figure out how to make the shit lighter, or we have to figure out how to generate enough thrust that the weight doesn't matter as much.
Yeah.
Hey, Daniel Frost, thank you for being a member for 2 months. He said I'm late, but at least I made it live. Welcome, sir.
Cool. Thanks.
It's a nuclear TEG or thermoelectric generator. Okay, so I was right. Yeah. So it's one of those it's basically just a giant nuclear battery, but instead of using the light like a nuclear battery, like if you've ever seen these little nuclear batteries that they use for like pacemakers and stuff like that, they basically take I think it's tritium. it emits this like it emits like small levels of like not gamma, what is it, alpha radiation or whatever, and it basically hits a little thermoelectric generator and then generates a constant voltage from the light. So just think of it, it's like wrapping a thermoelectric generator around a glow rod. They don't generate much power, but they're hugely reliable and they go for a really long time without having to be changed. But like for the one that's on the rover, they're using a thermoelectric generator, so it's taking the delta between the temperature of the atmosphere, which on Mars is really cold, and this thermoelectric generator is on this decaying reactor that is just putting out a shitload of heat. Well, I mean, I don't know how much heat it's putting out exactly, but whatever the delta is between the atmosphere temperature and that, the thermoelectric generator is going to create a voltage from that. So, and I want to say it's actually a decent amount. It's like, I want to say it's a couple 100 watts. Like here, how much, let's see here, electricity comes out of rover on Mars. Oh, 140 watts. Actually, that's not that much if you think about it. But I guess it's just crazy to think that thing's like the size of like a Honda Civic, and it's like cruising around on Mars nonstop, running experiments and drills and everything with just 140 watts continuous power. I'd imagine though that it probably has capacitor banks and stuff like that, so that it can store up like a large amount of energy, so they can do stuff like drilling and experiments like for a short period of time. Because 140 watts isn't that much if you wanted to like move. Drill stuff and scan. I can't imagine they could do all those things with just 100.
Oh, no, I mean you put, and then take power away from your wheels to go move the drill arm.
Totally.
Right? Probably,
hey, what's up, Graham?
Mixing and matching.
Graham's in chat. What's up, Graham?
Hey, what's up, dude?
I don't know. I think it's cool. I think the Artemis mission's cool. I'm glad that they finally launched, because honestly, if they didn't push the button on that thing, it was just going to be a fail, and they never would have got off the pad. So,
and I am glad that NASA hasn't completely given up on their own stuff. Like they're not just giving everything over to privatized space stuff. Like I'm glad that they are still developing their own rockets, and they want to have their own, manned missions and things like that. Like that's smart. I do think it should be both.
The thing that I'm wondering is, like, SpaceX has shown us like what the private sector can do. Now, granted, there's a lot of stuff people don't know about SpaceX, like a lot of the subsidized stuff that they've gotten from like without the government, they wouldn't be where they're at today. Like they took a lot of money to get where they're at today, but they have proven that they can do stuff for a fraction of the price of what NASA was doing it for. So obviously NASA was just way freaking over budget as far as creating stuff, but there are two different methodologies. Like NASA creates something that will work the first time. That's like their motto. Like they test everything, look for every contingency, and that's what costs so damn much and takes so much time. Is they want to make sure that they launch it once and then that's the end of it, right? It just works. Whereas with SpaceX, you have them just basically just flinging shit into the sky, and as long as each one gets a little further and a little further and a little further, they just keep like, fix that, we strengthen that, put a weld there, take a weld away there until it gets to where they want it to go, and then they just repeat that a couple of times to make sure that it's repeatable and there isn't like random shit popping up, and then at that point they just say it's done, like we're there, and so they get there faster, but they burn up a lot more hardware on the way.
Oh, right.
But it ends up being cheaper. But here's the argument that I posed to somebody the other day, and they told me I was full of shit. But I'm curious what you guys think. For Falcon 9, that works, right? It's a very simple rocket. The Falcon 9 is an incredibly simple rocket. Like the shit it does with its little landing parlor trick, that's software, right? You basically have a gimbal controlled engine and like three legs that come down with pneumatic pistons or whatever. There's no complexity there. It's the software that makes it do its little party trick. But all in all, it's just a tube, right? It's a rocket. It's a tube that has some pressure tanks in it, and it shits the fuel out the bottom through a couple of motors, and you're in space, right? So if you blow that up, it's not that big of a deal. You lose a couple of motors, you lose the rocket, you build another one pretty cheap. Now, what do you do with how can you apply that same mentality to Starship, where it's like one rocket blows up and you lose like 50 engines? That's where I start thinking that breaks down. Like, I don't think that scales. And I think that's kind of like where NASA is good, is that they can do all the work to make sure that when they build that thing, they can test everything digitally, physically, test everything in-house, so that when they build the thing, they can look at that with reasonable confidence and say, the first time it's going to just work.
Yep.
It's going to get there and work. Whereas SpaceX, they don't know. They can't look at you and say, this is going to work. They're just going to say, we're going to blow a lot of shit up, and then one day it's going to work. We're just going to keep patching stuff to get to the next thing, I just don't think that that's cost effective when you're dealing with something bigger than just a rocket that gets to orbit.
Yeah.
Like, I think once you start looking at rockets that are going to Mars and stuff like that, it gets infinitely more complex. And I think SpaceX is proving that, seeing as Starship still hasn't made an orbital launch. I even argue it still hasn't made a successful landing, even though, I mean, it broke its strut and like caught on fire for a little while. I guess that's technically it landed, but it didn't land how it was supposed to. And that's not even how it's supposed to land in the first place. It's supposed
any
to be
landing you
caught by
walk
the
away
chopsticks.
from, right?
Yeah, that's true. Any landing you walk away from is a good one. But I don't think it's working out, because I think Elon Musk, or I shouldn't even say him, it's honestly Gwen Shotwell and the rest of the company, them focusing on the rebooting of it over and over again, using the same night mentality, I don't think works with Starship. I really don't think it does. Because you're talking about so much longer trips. Like, if you build this thing and you launch it up and you do a test to Mars and it just blows up halfway to Mars, that's 3 months wasted. Like, you're still designing stuff. Yeah,
materials,
a lot of materials, a lot of time wasted. It's like, you have to be sure that when you push the button and you finally launch that thing, that it's just gonna fucking work. And Elon says he's against that mentality. Like, he is definitely the just keep on blowing shit up until it works guy. So I think one method works really well for rockets that just go to orbit, like stuff that you can repeat very frequently. You know, that doesn't you don't lose as many resources when you blow it up. But when you're talking about starships going to other planets and shit, they have this many motors, this much fuel complexity, and the mission complexity goes up, and you have to catch the goddamn thing with like chopsticks and the world's biggest structure. I'm starting to think that, dude, what happens when the first Starship comes down, lands on the chopsticks, blows up, and like destroys the tower? How long does it take them to rebuild that fucking tower? Like, I just don't see that. Like, small failures can set them back so far and cost so much more money. So I do think that there's a place for both. I do think that NASA serves a purpose where they are looking at the better thing. That's like, we want to make goddamn sure it works before we ever actually launch it, so that we know it has a high chance to get there, versus Elon, let's just keep chucking shit at Mars until something eventually arrives. And then when it does, throw some humans on it and do it again and hope that something different doesn't happen this time. You know, it's like, I don't like that mentality for that length of mission. But I think they both have a place. I think they both should continue to live on.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
and I think we should have more privatized stuff too, right? Like even Blue Origin, they even found their niche, right? I mean, I think it's funny. It's a glorified roller coaster. It costs $250,000 or whatever. It's basically the Tower of Terror, you know, orbital edition. But still, they found their niche, right? It's like, they are servicing customers to just go up and hang out for 5 minutes and be weightless.
Yeah.
And then you got Virgin Galactic, which is offering a service where it's like you're weightless for a longer period of time than you are with Blue Origin, because you're on like this parabolic arc or whatever. You know, and you got more space to move around. It's a much larger cabin, right? And I think it's even cheaper. I think it's even cheaper to go up on the Virgin Galactic than it is on Bezos's little rocket. So I do think that all these people are like serving a purpose, and they should all remain around. And I'm totally for the private sector like getting after it. But I think when we're talking about like really long length missions, like pushing shit out further into the solar system, you're still going to need stuff like NASA that just has like an infinite amount of resources available to them.
Yeah.
You know, and the other thing too is, like, we did our best work in the space program, and not counting Falcon 9, but if you go back and look at our space program, we always did the best work when we were racing somebody else, when we were in competition with another country.
Yep.
And so I think now it's like there's a friendly competition between the civilian and the government, right? You have like SLS and Artemis, and then you got Starship and SpaceX. And I think it was even Boeing wanted to like build, was it the Dreamliner or something like that? And they wanted to go to the moon, and they lost the bid. So you have all these people that are competing with each other. And I think that the competition aspect does breed excellence. Like, without the competition, one person could just drag their feet as long as they want and take as much time as they want. I think it's only when you have all those things basically nipping at each other's heels that we see like huge strides. And that also happens with technology on computers too. It's like, anytime you have a company that has a huge edge, like Intel or something like that, where their processor is so far beyond what everybody else has, they don't have to create a new processor for a long period of time. Even though they have the technology to do it, even though they've even created the schematics and they know it's going to work, they won't produce it until they get to a point where they have to. So technology, you know, inherently slows down unless you have two or more people that are like getting in a bidding war and competing over it. That's when you see technology start making like huge strides. So I'm all for the competition aspect of it, and I want to see that continue to happen. Let's see here. More efficient solar. You posted this one. I didn't get a chance to really look at it, but what the hell's going on with solar panels?
Look at the headline. That's all I ever do is look at the headline.
Here, let's open it.
Oh crap, where'd I put it? I lose
here, I'll put it in chat.
Oh, there it is.
You found it?
Yeah, a new record efficiency achieved by dye-sensitized solar cells. This is coming from SciTech Daily.
I actually saw a news thing on this not too long ago.
See here, blah blah blah, DSCs, blah blah blah. Gradual convert light to electricity, photosynthesis, attached, absorbed, surface down, crystal meats of porous titanium. Yeah, sure. That's a lot of multisyllabic words. Okay, so first little bit goes into the kind of some short background on solar panels and stuff, solar cells. And then it goes, now scientists, quoting, now scientists from the groups of Greitzel and Anders Hagfeld at EPFL have developed a way of improving the packing of two newly designed photosensitizer dye molecules to enhance the DSC's photovoltaic performance. Together, the new photosensitizers can harvest light quantitatively across the entire visible spectrum, or domain. I'm sorry, visible domain. The new technique involves adsorbing a monolayer of a derivative of hydroxamic acid on the surface of nanocrystalline mesoporous titanium dioxide. There's your fucking vocab words for the week. Wow. This slows down the adsorption. So this is, I'm pronouncing that how they've spelt it. Ad with a D, not a B.
It sounds like they're saying a lot of really complicated shit to say that they just added some colorized dye to a panel that makes more of the light usable.
Namely, information well-ordered densely packed layer of synthesizer, power efficiency up to 15.2% for the first time under standard global simulated sunlight, long-term operational stability tested over 500 hours. Increasing the active area to 2.8 centimeters cubed. The power conversion efficiency spanned 28.4 to 30.2% over a wide range of ambient light intensities, along with outstanding stability. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I have no idea what any of that meant. So okay, a dye-sensitized solar cell, also known as a DSSC or DSC, is a distinct type of photovoltaic cell, which can effectively convert natural and artificial visible light into electrical impulses. So it just from like the little things I'm googling around here, it looks like they figured out how to make it use a broader spectrum of light, whereas it used to be just a small narrow band of light created the UVC or whatever was what created the electricity, and now it's like photosynthesis where it can use a lot of the light, like a very broad part of the light, getting more energy from it.
It does seem to be that way. Can harvest light quantitatively across the entire visible domain.
Okay, so this will make more sense. So so these are the advantages of the dye-sensitized solar cell versus what we have today, commonly used today.
Oh, super.
It says it has an ability to function in low light and artificial light. So DSCCs can absorb scattered sunlight and fluorescent light because of the dye used in the cell and the depth of their nanostructure. The DSSCs can also function in cloudy weather and low light conditions without a significant impact on its efficiency, which conventional panels lose a shitload of efficiency when the clouds come in. Said other conventional solar cells would not be able to function at illuminations below a certain range, whereas the DSSCs can do what other types of solar cells can do what other solar cells can't because of the work of wider angle and very low cutoff, making them appropriate for operating small devices indoors. So, cool. So kind of like the little photovoltaic cell that's in your calculator, right?
Yeah, that was my thought. It's like, but greatly more efficient.
And then it says, okay, so dye-sensitized solar cells are also made of low-cost materials, making them inexpensive to manufacture. They also can be printed on a flexible surface, so that's cool. Let's see here. Lower manufacturing costs, resilience to damage. So it says compared to thin film cells, DSSCs do not degrade in sunlight over time. Thus, dye-sensitized solar cells can last longer and require less frequent replacements. It also says they're mechanically stronger because they're made of lightweight materials that do not require special protection from the rain or abrasive objects. So you don't have to put any kind of protective layer on it. Nice. It also has a resistance to heat, which obviously if you're putting it on the sun, that's probably a big deal. Said other kinds of solar cells need some protection from ambient temperature rises. They can heat up very easily, and the internal temperature of the solar cell reduces efficiency significantly. This can result in up to 20% of the energy being lost just from the heat. In contrast, dye-sensitized solar cells can work as efficiently at 149 degrees Fahrenheit as they do at 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So, and it also says they radiate heat much more efficiently too. So they'll cool down way faster. Nice. More usable light. So obviously you'd be still making power into the evening, whereas with conventional solar, it drops off really steeply as soon as the sun isn't directly in line with your panels.
Yeah.
I don't know. Seems like some cool stuff. I'm just trying to figure out it. They make it sound like all they're doing though is just like impregnating it with literally a dye, like they're literally dyeing it a color so that it sees light differently.
So that's part of how the solar cells are made is these dye compounds or whatever, that absorb the light and inject electrons into an array of oxide nanocrystals and all that stuff.
Yeah, and the link you had, apparently this technology has been around for a long time. The link that you had is that they found a way to even make it more efficient.
Better.
So
yeah.
So the technology has been around for a long time to create these types of solar cells. It's just now they figured out how to increase the efficiency another step than before. So which I mean is great. I mean, solar is the thing I love about solar energy is, right, you have zero pollution other than creating the panel, which arguably is kind of, creates pollution, not as much as it used to though. And you have to replace them less frequently. But I just like the idea that it's like we have this giant fusion reactor in the sky that's like floating around for, half of our day. And it'd be nice if we could utilize that more to power things instead of having to create, wasteful power sources. Like, I cannot believe how much of the power in the United States is still from natural gas. Like
burning stuff.
And just burning stuff like coal, like dirty coal and natural gas. And, it's basically like the equivalent of you running a generator at your house. Like every house has its little generator, fill up the gas tank and pull the ripcord. And it just doesn't make sense. And the other thing that really pissed me off too is how nuclear power has been so demonized since Chernobyl. Like Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island just scared the shit out of people to the point where building a nuclear power plant isn't even cost effective anymore because of all the extra EPA shit and regulations. And I mean, it literally takes, what they say, like 10 years minimum to bring a new nuclear power plant online from the time they start building it. And it's like an $8 billion investment or something. So it takes them forever to recoup the money before it's even profitable. And most of the power plants get shut down before they ever reach their profitability. But the thing is, they are literally the cleanest and safest power source that we've ever created. Less people die from nuclear power, from the end-to-end process of mining, refining, and powering the nuclear power plant as there is in natural gas, coal, or even solar. More people die from putting up windmills and solar panels than they do from the nuclear industry per capita of unit of power created. So it saddens me that there's so much technology that's outside of our grasps just because people are afraid of it, because people used fear as a way to profit, like the news and stuff like that people are scared. Same reason why we're so behind on medical research, right? It's like stem cells. It's like we lots of other countries are doing research on stem cells and making like huge advancements in medical technology, whereas we have like ethical problems with it, right? It's like fetal stem cells are so frowned upon, and the law before would prevent you from even working with other types of stem cells because the law wasn't very specific. And it's only now we're starting to get to the point where the laws are actually like favoring the ability to convert other cells into stem cells and use those instead of fetal stem cells. But we hold ourselves back so much because the narrative is so overblown and so BS that people legitimately are scared. And rightfully so. The information they're given, they should be afraid. Like, honestly, I even felt the same way before I looked into nuclear power. But until I watched was the Kurtzagat. Oh, damn, the thing Jim works on every once in a while. It's a YouTube channel. They have a video on nuclear power and its safety rating. There's another guy that I watch on YouTube who did an entire series, a 13-part series on nuclear power and every step of the way, like how they figured things out and its cleanliness record. And you watch that and it immediately makes you realize that stuff like the disaster that happened at like Fukushima and Chernobyl are very few and far between and completely avoidable. Like even at the time that they built these things, it was completely avoidable. It took an astronomical amount of stupidity. Like you could literally create a more hazardous thing just by going and just lighting all of the barges full of diesel on fire on the entire planet, or just blowing up and starting a coal mine. Like, that there's a city in the United States that's actually banned. Nobody can ever live there again because the carbon dioxide emissions are so high because the coal mine underneath the city is permanently on fire.
Yeah, man. I've heard about that. It's like in Pennsylvania or something.
Yeah.
It's like a big accident. Burn the whole mine up.
Or it's still the whole city is evacuated. It's like a ghost town. Yeah. It's like, hold on here, city.
That's crazy.
Coal fire under it. And but you never hear about this stuff, right? Because it's like there just wasn't enough fear there because it was localized to one area. It didn't really impact anybody outside of that area. So, but that's a huge disaster, right? This thing's supposed to burn for like the next 2,000 years or something like that. And it's producing insane amounts of CO2 and other greenhouse gases. And it's, you can go into the area, but you can't stay there very long. Let's see here. Okay. So, was it? Oh, it's Centralia, Pennsylvania. is the place where this happened, and it's just a giant coal fire that's just burning underneath thing. The ground is actually hot. Like you can walk around the town and you see steam coming off of the ground because these underground fires are producing so much heat. And when you look at the amount of fuel that's burning and how long it's going to be burning and everything, it's like it actually produces far more pollution than Chernobyl ever could. like overall, like the for its impact on Earth from the point that it happened onward. And plus Chernobyl, you can go there now. Like Chernobyl,
I've seen about that. Yeah,
people are like afraid of going there. You can
stuff.
stand next to the sarcophagus. You can literally go there and stand right next to the sarcophagus and like for days before you get any kind of a radioactive exposure that would be considered in any way unhealthy.
Crazy.
So, and there's people literally living in that 10-mile, what do they call it, the exclusion zone? There's people literally living there, and they give tours. You can actually pay to go to Ukraine, and well, probably not right now with everything going on, but you could pay to go get tours of the facility and get driven around to look at all these like old reactor buildings and stuff like that. So it's not as bad as people think. But if you ask somebody that just watched like the Chernobyl documentary, or the whatever the TV show was, the Chernobyl like mockumentary. Well, I guess it wasn't a mockumentary. They were pretty accurate.
It was like a show explaining things up to the end of it.
Yeah, it's like people are so afraid of nuclear power now because they see that, but they don't have a point of reference. Like they're looking at that in the worst case scenario and the worst light at the time it happened versus like a bunch of other stuff that's happening like right now that is actually way worse, way more detrimental, but it just didn't get the media coverage and it didn't like capture the world like that did, right? So that's why I encourage people, like, do your research, right? If something's bugging you, go do some research and dig some stuff. If it looks too good to be true, it usually is. If it looks like it's so bad you can't believe it, it probably isn't. And I think if more people actually looked into that instead of just like, looking at the TV and being in fear all the time, which I'm guilty of doing myself, 100%. I'm pointing my finger at myself. It's like you have to just say, you know what, as scary as this is and as bad as this seems and everybody's talking, I just need to go for myself and go like look into this and figure out like, what is this big scary monster and why should it concern me or it shouldn't concern me? Yeah. And usually you get a different answer than what you went into it with. It's very rare that you go in and just confirm your beliefs. It's usually come out knowing something more. Graham said, yeah, the Russians have not been gentle with Chernobyl since the invasion. Yeah, no, that's kind of getting scary too. This is the one thing that does scare me a little bit with nuclear power. And it's not just nuclear power. It's just the generation of any kind of nuclear waste. Is we have to store it in sarcophagus buried in the ground. There's really nothing else you can do with it. And other than now we're creating new methods for recycling and refining it back into fuel again, but still there is nuclear waste, but it's a tiny amount. Like if you look at the amount of waste that's created, even over the period that it has to remain buried and it's dangerous, when you factor that in for the power that's generated, it's still less polluting overall than like literally anything else. And but it does tend to concentrate in areas, and it's like, what would happen if a terrorist targeted one of those areas and basically turned it into a giant dirty bomb and just spread radioactive isotopes like cobalt and stuff like that over hundreds and hundreds of miles? Like that part does scare me a little bit, but the amount of negligence that would be required to allow something like that to happen and how lucky the terrorists would have to be and have everything line up to make something like that happen is astronomically small. Like it's realistically, it's something you wouldn't even exercise as being able to happen. But and then we have to worry about other countries too. Like honestly, it's like we have the Nuclear Regulatory Association that oversees everything, or the commission, and they make sure everything's safe and they make sure that everything is like handled exactly the way it's supposed to and the technology is like updated. But then you have other countries like North Korea where they're just like, let's build like a nuclear bomb that is akin to basically like Fat Man and Little Boy from the 50s. Yeesh. And let's try to put them on bigger and bigger missiles until they can reach somewhere. And it's like that kind of negligence. That's what we should be worried about, not the countries that actually know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
Because think about it. You can put a nuclear reactor on a submarine with like hundreds of sailors and close proximity to it for like 6 months during a tour duty under the water, and they're fine.
Yeah.
And everybody's fine. So not even a higher rate of cancer or anything. So if we can do that and generate enough power to basically have a city that's generating its own water through desalination, its own oxygen through electrolysis, and everything except for its own food. That's the only thing they haven't figured out, because that requires a lot of space. Is they have to take food with them. Sure. But other than the food, everything else that they need can be generated and powered on board for 6 months. They don't even have to break the surface of the water. And I think that's freaking amazing. This is like amazing technology that we should be using all over the place. I mean, the size of a nuclear reactor doesn't even have to be that big anymore. Like old style nuclear reactors were infinitely larger than modern nuclear reactors. Now they've got, what is it, like thorium reactors. That's another thing they've been looking into. I think it's a little bit of a pipe dream
and whatnot. Yeah,
but you can build like these. Well, like did you see, what is it, the molten
sodium, something like that? It's
the
like
molten salt reactor. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, I think it was years and years ago. The French were looking into building one of those.
Yeah, I think they did. I think China actually has one right now.
The fuels like these orange, about the orange size pellets, and then like the whole structure of the thing is built to like keep it going. So if anything ever fails, it just goes. There's no meltdown. It just stops.
Yeah, modern reactors aren't like Chernobyl. Chernobyl required power to pull the fuel bundle, or to pull to pull the moderator into the fuel bundle. So basically, when you start a reaction, it's a chain reaction, right? So when you get
the whole thing's built to keep the reaction from getting out of hand. Right. So if anything goes wrong, then everything fucks up. But like now we can build them so that the whole point of the thing is to keep it going. So if anything fails, it just fine.
So like an example would be like Fukushima's reactor, right?
That was like a leak though, right? Like some container broke. Essentially, I'm reductioning, but like it wasn't a meltdown. I thought a tsunami
flooded everything.
Something broke and like it was leaking. It wasn't like it melted or anything. Something broke.
Yeah, it didn't melt down. It literally was just obliterated. But the thing is like with an old school nuclear reactor, like and it was already unsafe. Like at the time they built Chernobyl, they already knew it was unsafe. They just kept building this reactor because it's what they knew. And you needed power to stop the reaction. So if you lost your backup power, you were done. Meltdown's imminent.
See, that's not right.
And so modern reactors that they have now, basically it's designed so that gravity will actually pull the freaking moderator into the fuel bundle, which basically it's like the same as pouring water on a fire. So your fire's burning, you pour water, the water suffocates it so it can't get any more air and it dies, right? It's the same thing with a nuclear reaction. You basically have a bundle of fuel that's reacting and it's getting hotter and hotter and hotter. And if left unchecked, it's a chain reaction. It'll eventually just get so hot that it physically melts into a bulb of just reacting fuel that you can't control. But as long as it doesn't melt, you still have the opportunity to put the moderator in between the bundle. That's basically a sponge that sucks up the neutrons so that it slows the reaction down, kind of like a gas pedal in a car. But what you do is all you have to do is design the reactor so that it takes a tremendous amount of power to hold the bundle out of the fuel. Yeah. And then if anything fails, if the power goes out, it just drops fine. Yeah. All the weight just drops it right back in. It almost instantaneously stops the reaction. Like doesn't matter how freaking hot it is. It will, as long as the fuel hasn't melted yet, it will stop the reaction. And as long as the pool hasn't flashed off, which is what happened with Chernobyl, basically all the water got so hot so fast that it just flashed off into steam and then turned into hydrogen and oxygen and exploded. It should have never been allowed to get that hot. Like a normal reactor they'd already have something called a thermal fuse. And if it gets too hot to a certain point, it'll actually melt this thing that will just drop the moderator into the fuel bundle. So think of it like a fuse or a breaker, right? It's like if for whatever reason, doesn't matter what it is, that fuel gets hotter than it's allowed to get, the system automatically shuts itself off. Like it cannot physically continue unless like somebody went and jammed shit into the mechanism to stop it from dropping. That's like the only thing that would prevent it from stopping the reaction. And so modern stuff is safe.
I gotta go, man.
No, you go ahead and get out of here, man. No, you let me know ahead of time.
Yeah,
so I appreciate it.
Sorry, buddy. I gotta get going. I got some stuff to do around the house and whatnot. So
all right, we'll give the fam my best.
Have fun. Follow all my social media stuff. I'm auxiliary everywhere, Space Hey Now and all that jazz, wherever. I try and fill out all those things. I'm going to be trying to stream more on Thursdays for PCs and stuff. So keep an eye out for that. So,
yeah, no, let me know when you're streaming. I'll go jump on my thing and raid you or host you or something.
So thanks everybody. Bye.
Peace out, bro.
Well, I'm sure we'll have it's all holiday stuff. I'm sure we'll have a full episode at some point, but it's going to be sketchy through these next few months just because of holiday stuff. So
yeah, well, my health hasn't exactly been reliable either. So we'll figure it out eventually.
So thanks everybody. Have a good time. Bye.
Peace out, brother. And then there was me, Barnacules, all by him lonesome. Well, hope you guys are having a wonderful Saturday. Quick update for those of you guys that haven't seen me, because I've had to cancel quite a few Twitch streams lately. I've been dealing with some declining medical problems. We're trying to figure some stuff out like usual. Don't worry, people are like, go to the doctor. I'm already going to the doctor. They already told me what to do. I got to monitor my vitals multiple times a day. But I'm having a new problem that's getting pretty annoying where I'm having trouble breathing. And when I talk continuously, like I do when I live stream, I'll get to the point sometimes where I can't catch my breath. And I basically get stuck. Like if you hiked up a big hill and you can't ever catch your breath, that's how I feel. I feel like I can't catch my breath. And then that creates anxiety, which then makes my heart rate beat up, which makes it even harder. And it just keeps feeding into the cycle. It's like I melt down basically. So I have a rescue inhaler. I have oxygen sensor. I have a blood pressure cuff, and hopefully I never need it, but I have a defibrillator. And so we think right now the problem is they had to do a medication change because my old pain medicine just wasn't working very well anymore after 15 years. And so I couldn't move and do a whole lot. So they put me on a new medication that actually helps me sleep amazing. Like I sleep way better than I have in forever. And it helps the pain be way more tolerable. But the downside is it's been feeling like it's weakening my muscles. Like my muscles on my legs and my arms and in my diaphragm feel like they've gotten really weak. And it makes breathing sometimes a little bit of a chore. Getting up and moving around becomes very stressful. And so we're just trying to navigate that right now. And that's why I've had to cancel some streams, because if I get to the point where I talk for 5 minutes and I'm falling apart, like I'm way better today than I was yesterday. I had to cancel the Twitch stream yesterday. But I just, when an event happens, I just got to go put on my little oxygen sensor, put on my blood pressure cuff and just ride it out. And if it drops below a certain level, I got to call 911 and go to the hospital. But so far that hasn't had to happen. And they're hoping that over a period of time, once I adjust to the new medication, that my body will adjust to it and I'll be okay. And then I won't have this problem anymore. So they don't think this is a prolonged thing. If they thought it was prolonged, they would take me off the medication immediately and put me back on the old meds. But they're like, going back and forth is not a good idea. So they're like, as long as your vitals are strong, even if it does feel like, you know, your breathing's a little labored or whatever, as long as your pulse is, you're not experiencing tachycardia for a long period of time, and you're not having an oxygen dropout, and it's just that feeling of having to breathe a little heavy. They're like, yeah, just keep an eye on it and don't worry about it. But if it hits this point, then go seek attention. So I just want you guys to know, if you've been watching on Twitter and over on Twitch and stuff like that, I do have doctors involved. I have a primary care physician and I have a pain doctor, both involved in this. And we're keeping an eye on it moving forward. But I'm just old Barnacules wearing out, man. 43 years old. And unfortunately, you know, throughout COVID, just being so sedentary for so long exacerbated problems just so much that it's a mountain to try to get over. The nerd cave's torn apart, house is torn apart. I've been slowly trying to fix little things around the house, like water leaks and stuff that have been going on for a long time, but it's like super slow going. And I'm starting to realize that I'm probably not going to be able to do all the things that I wanted to do or recover and do the things that I thought I was going to do. So now I just got to kind of manage with what I can do and what I can. And if stuff gets worse, just deal with it. And so just heads up, if I seem a little off or I seem a little different than usual, that's probably why. Just having to fight with this shit. But I got an amazing family. My wife and kiddo, they're taking good care of me, and we're, for the moment, we're okay. And I appreciate you guys still coming around, even when I miss a bunch of streams and stuff like that. It's like right now we still have, you know, about 188 viewers in here. And it means the world to me that a lot of you guys still show up and hang out with me, even though I'm just not what I used to be. And I can fully admit that. I don't even feel like I used to. So I obviously am not going to look like it. And I'm not going to be able to fake it either. So like you guys can probably tell just looking at me, I'm already having trouble breathing again. That's why I'm talking about this. Okay, Joe Taji, thank you for the $5 super chat. He said, do you remember the episode of Spitting Image where the billionaires go to Mars and hope everything's okay? I appreciate the streams. Oh, isn't that British animated show with the puppets? Dude, it's hilarious. If you guys haven't seen it, it's great. Yes, I have seen that one. Hey, Brandon, thank you for the $3.15 super chat. He said, much love, my friend. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you guys for so much of the support. And thank you for hanging out and being patient. My goals, of course, in my head, I keep telling myself I'd love to just play video games again. I haven't played a video game in like 4 or 5 months because my hands have just been, I've been suffering from like really bad neuropathy in both my hands. We can't figure out what the hell's causing that. We think that it's a pinch in a nerve somewhere, but I don't get why. It just comes and goes at random, even when I'm in the same exact position. So I don't know what that's all about. But I know it's not a blood flow issue because I'm still showing full oxygen on the tips of all my fingers throughout an attack with my hands. And when they're really swollen, I can't move them. So it's got to be something else. It could be carpal tunnel too. I know that carpal tunnel was something that I was starting to have a problem with even a couple of years ago, and maybe it's just gotten really, really bad. But my goals are, I'd love to be able to get back to playing video games. I'd love to get back to doing coding again. I'd love to get back to 3D printing. I'd love to get the Nerd Cave built again. I'd love to start doing racing simulation. VR, there is so much shit I would love to get back to, but right now it's all just in pieces and buried in piles. And yeah, my environment's definitely imitating my life. But I just wanted you guys to know, a lot of people message me every once in a while and say, hey, I didn't even know you were alive. I thought that you completely left. And I just want you guys to know that's not the case. And if you see anybody saying that, or say, just let them know I am still around. I'm still kicking. I'm just fighting a lot of crap right now, and I'm just doing my best to get through it. And I hope, more people can understand that than don't. You guys have been awesome. Thank you for hanging out. I appreciate everything that you guys do for me and my family and my just overall attitude and comfort when I'm feeling bad. Everything you guys say, all the positive, uplifting stuff helps out a ton. And I'll continue to keep you guys posted on everything that's going on with the medication changes and any decline, or if they find anything new. But it's probably getting pretty close to the time where I'll have to start going in and start getting some more specialists involved and having to dig and do some more scans and stuff. But at the moment, through examination, it looks like my lungs are still good. It looks like my heart is still strong. That's why they think most of the problems that I'm exhibiting right now are probably just getting used to medication. And unfortunately, with the types of medication changes I'm having and being on medication for so long, it's like it takes time for shit to adjust. And that's why they're like, let's not just keep changing stuff every couple of weeks, because they think that that's just going to create more untrackable problems. So they just want to like stay at a baseline for a period of time, even if it's uncomfortable, just to see if things improve. And then if they don't, then they know for sure that if they make a change, that if something gets better, that was the problem. Hope that makes sense. But yeah, it sucks, because it means a lot of the time I'm basically just sitting down watching YouTube videos and going between being somewhat comfortable to struggling to breathe. And I don't like it. But the doctors are aware. Just so you guys know, the doctors are aware. I have all the equipment to monitor myself. I have all the equipment to save myself in a rescue situation. So I think I'm going to be all right. I just want you guys to know. I think I'm going to go ahead and shut down. Because I think I'm gonna go rest, because I did push it a little bit harder today. I had to cancel the stream yesterday because I couldn't breathe. I made it further than I thought today. Like I honestly thought that I was gonna have to lean on auxiliary a lot more to talk, because just calming down and trying to catch my breath is hard when I have to talk exclusively like this. But so that already shows improvement from where I was yesterday and where I was Wednesday. So I'm still trying to navigate and figure out, does it get worse in the afternoons? Is it worse in the morning? So far, it looks like if I stream earlier in the day, it becomes less of an issue. As the day goes on, it feels like it gets harder. So I don't know if that's medication wearing off in the afternoon, or, I'm just trying to figure it out. I'm trying to kind of keep a mental journal of everything that's going on and figure it out. But one way or another, I'd like to get there, because, man, I miss making content. But boy, when you can't get up and so much as like lift something and even walk up the stairs without feeling like you can't catch your breath, that sucks. That fucking sucks. So, and of course I want to lose weight too, but that requires exercise, and I can't exercise while this is going on, other than just doing some stuff while I'm like laying down and sitting down, which doesn't help a lot. It helps a little, but it doesn't help a lot. I also got an elliptical glider. I'm just trying to get some help to get it into the house so that I can start doing that for like maybe a minute or two, and then pause, and then catch my breath, do it again, pause and catch my breath. Because I got to get some kind of exercise going on, because if I don't, my body's just going to keep failing me. And, I don't want to just be another statistic. Yeah, no, I do too, Alan. I miss making content so bad. I miss making content. I miss live streaming more regularly. I miss 3D printing and programming. I miss playing games with my friends and throwing on my headset and running around and shit talking. And there's so much stuff that I love to do. And, I was doing it all, like, for the longest time. Like, I was doing all snowboarding. I miss horribly. Mountain biking, I miss horribly. There's all these things that I would love to get back to doing that I just can't do anymore. And then when I think about not being able to do them anymore, I panic, and then that makes things worse. So it's all about balance. And so right now, probably the most healthy thing for me is therapy, because therapy actually helps me deal with a lot of this and look at it in not so much of a threatening view. But there's nothing scarier than feeling trapped in your own body, like having claustrophobia, like your body feels like a room and you're inside of the room instead of you being the body. It's very weird. The way I've described it to people, the feelings that I've had when I can't catch my breath, or when I feel like I can't get comfortable. It reminds me of that Rick and Morty episode with Intergalactic Cable, where the guy, personal space guy, where he like rips off his skin because it was in his personal space. If you guys don't know the skit, go watch Rick and Morty. It's hilarious. But that's kind of like how I feel. Like, I kind of get that skit watching it. I'm like, that's how I feel right now, is like my body is this prison that I'm stuck in, and it shouldn't be like that. Like, you should never, ever feel that way. That is a really, really bad sign. And so, and a lot of it is physical and a lot of it's psychological, and I just got to navigate it. And I will. I'll get there. You guys know I'm not going to give up. I just want to make sure everybody knows like what's going on. Because again, Twitter's kind of going down the shitter hole right now. And Elon pretty much all but said, well, he did say specifically to the public yesterday on Twitter that he's going to start moderating anybody that says anything he doesn't like. He said he's going to start shadow banning and deboosting content on Perfect that doesn't align with what he wants. He claims that is free speech. And so I can guarantee you with what I've been posting that I'm going to be slowly choked off and disappear off that platform. So if you don't see anything on Twitter, no, I'm posting there all day, every day. If you guys don't see something from me, it's because it's being hidden from you if you follow me. So just go look at my profile, and even then you can't see. Sometimes when they deboost stuff, you can't even see it when you go to the profile. I even went under my own account under incognito and couldn't see it. So just know that if you don't see me there, you can head over and find me on Discord. You can go to my link tree. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me even on TikTok, even though I don't recommend using TikTok. I won't get into that right now, but that's a huge fucking privacy invasion. Make sure you're running that shit under some kind of emulation or compartmentalization or under BlueStacks or something. But yeah, I'm all over the place. Come find me on the other areas if you can't get a hold of me through Twitter, because it's going to be a rough ride with him in charge, and it's just something we have to accept. There's nothing we can do about it. Hey, Tander, thank you for the subscribe. I appreciate that. All right, I'm going to shut her down, guys. I think I might even go jump in the hot tub. I think getting some fresh air outside and sitting in the hot tub would probably actually do me some good today. And I'll ping you guys later and let you know what's up. If I'm feeling a little bit better tomorrow, I might do a live stream since I've missed so many over on Twitch. But it just depends on how I'm feeling. But I'll keep you guys posted. If you guys want to talk to me, though, you guys know where to find me over on Twitter. Just at me. I usually see it. And if I don't and shit hits the fan, find me on Discord, discord.gg/Barnacules Nerdgasm. If that link doesn't work, just go to my link tree and you should be able to find it there, whatever the current link is. However, Discord keeps invalidating my links for some reason. I don't know if that's because I'm not their premium membership anymore. But I'll get it figured out. You can't stop the signal one way or another. If you guys see me disappear, you will find me. I'm out there somewhere. All right, guys.